Well done, Beelink. The SER9 is not only a performance powerhouse, it is also whisper quiet. I measured over 23,000 points in Cinebench R23. Thanks to the latest AMD Ryzen 5 architecture, we have 12 cores, 24 threads, RDNA 3.5 graphics, RAM that runs at 7500 MHz. It's faster in benchmarks and games than any other mini PC I've tested before, but it's also whisper quiet. Even while running all these heavy-duty benchmarks and doing some video rendering at 4K, this is the quietest mini PC I've tested. I'll cover all the basics like all the other reviews out there, but do stick around. I'll give you some tips of how I do a clean reinstallation of Windows, including backing up your drivers, and I'll also show you how you can use a M.2 to PCI Express adapter for those of you wanting to use an external graphics card or capture card like I do. Full disclosure, Beelink sent me this mini PC for free. I'm not getting paid, but I am keeping it. All the benchmark results and opinions are my own. In the box, we find the mini PC. There is a HDMI cable. It's 1 meter long. We have a 120 watt power supply and there is a user manual. Now you might be wondering, is 120 watt for the power supply a little bit too high? Well, this mini PC supports power delivery through the USB 4 port. An example, I'm using a portable monitor and it comes with its own 30 watt power supply. But when you connect it to USB 4, it's entirely powered through the mini PC. So only a single cable is required. It's available in 2 colors, Frost Silver and Space Gray. The SER9 is a little bit larger than some of the previous mini PCs I reviewed. It measures at 135 millimeters wide and deep, and it's 45 millimeters tall. Highlight of this computer and where most of the budget went into is the AMD Ryzen AI9 HX370 APU, codename Strix Point. We have 4 Zen 5 cores and 8 Zen 5C cores for a total of 12 cores and 24 threads. The base clock is 2 GHz. The 4 full Zen 5 cores can boost up to 5.1 GHz, and the 8 smaller Zen 5C cores, they can boost up to 3.3 GHz. On the AMD website, it mentions that the default TDP is 28 watts, but can be configured between 15 and 54 watts. Beelink has 2 profiles in the BIOS. One is for the performance mode. That's what we're using in this video. It will use 65 watts, but you can also use a balanced mode using 54 watts. My machine was configured with the performance mode out of the box, but be aware if you load the BIOS defaults, it will revert back to the balanced mode. So pay attention to that in case your benchmarks don't line up with what you see here in the video. I've also manually changed the VRAM allocation to 8 GB instead of 4. The BIOS is fully unlocked. You can do all sorts of overclocking and tweaking, including the fan profile and whatnot. But for this video, I left everything else on stock. I've also run all the Windows updates, so everything is patched and updated. And I downloaded the latest AMD graphics drivers. And here are some benchmark results. We are starting with Cinebench R15, 3,499 for the multi-core and 314 for the single-core test. In R20, we're getting 9,156 for the multi-core and 804 for the single-core test. And here we have R23 with 23,234 points for the multi-core and 2,048 for the single-core test. Just for comparison, if we set the BIOS to the balanced mode, which will save you a little bit of power, the performance is still very high. It drops down to 21,349. The single core result doesn't really change. It's not affected by the BIOS option for the power delivery. We're still getting over 2,000 points, 2,025. Now, by the name of this processor, you can tell that AI is a pretty big deal. Now, I have no experience with AI, I have to be honest here, so I'm just going to read the specifications on the datasheet. The NPU is specified with over 50 AI TOPS, and the entire machine altogether can achieve 80 TOPS when adding together the processing power of the NPU, CPU and GPU. For that AI experience, we have built-in speakers and microphones, and on the website it mentions tasks like website image generation, AI drawing, AI enhanced video editing, and AI assisted 3D design. We have an AMD Radeon 890M GPU. From the RDNA 3.5 generation, we have 16 graphics cores, and they can run at up to 2.9 GHz. The graphics are supported by 32 GB of LPDDR5X memory running at 7500 MHz. The memory is soldered onto the motherboard, so it's not upgradable, and my understanding is that is a requirement to achieve those high clock speeds. In CloudGate, I measured 41,341. In Skydiver, 33,010. And in Firestrike, 9,426. And again, this is the fastest mini PC that I have personally benchmarked on the channel. And now let's talk about gaming. Now, I'm not into the latest and greatest AAA games. All the other channels, they cover this aspect really well. I'm more into the older games. I've got a huge backlog of old games that I picked up for free or for a low price on sales. And I also like to keep testing the same games so I can see how the performance improves with each new generation of mini PC. The game I always benchmark first is Dirt 3, an awesome racing game. Here we are running at 1080p, first with high details. It's not a challenge at all, over 200 FPS. So I'm setting the details to ultra, and look at that. 180 FPS is what I'm seeing, sometimes even 20. This is absolutely awesome. And again, it's the fastest I've seen this game run on any other mini PC that I've had the pleasure to test on this channel. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is next. This is a more modern game. We're not running at 720p, but straight to 1080p. And with the lowest details, well, it easily achieves over 60 FPS, I would say around 80 or so. So I tried my luck with medium details, and look at that. Around 50 FPS, it's getting close to those 60 FPS. If you try one of these upscaling technologies, then you can get smooth 60 FPS with medium details in Shadow of the Tomb Raider on a mini PC. That is absolutely amazing. I also like to test Strange Brigade with the Vulkan API. We're going straight to 1080p with the medium details because that ran well with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and look at that, it handles it just fine. We're getting those smooth 60 FPS, and again, this is the fastest I've seen this game run on a mini PC. So guys, this is a great mini PC so far, but can it run Crysis? Well, here we are, Crysis running in all its glory, 1080p, all the details are maxed out, and it runs really well. We're still seeing those micro stutters because of the unoptimized nature of Crysis. That's just how this game is, but it runs silky smooth. I'm really impressed. In fact, I kept playing the first level for a little bit longer than I should. Just got carried away. An absolute pleasure to see Crysis run so well. Speaking about older games, you should not have any issues playing all your backlog games with high settings. The machine is really fantastic for that, and the multi-threaded and single-threaded performance is so good. It will also do a great job with emulation, be it DOSBox, PCM or anything else. Let's check out the front of the machine. Here we have a power button. This one has also a white power LED. Up the top is an array of built-in microphones. Down here, this is a little clear CMOS button. If you do some overclocking and the machine doesn't work because your settings were too aggressive, you can clear the CMOS here. We've got an audio port at the front. This is a USB-C port with 10 gigabits per second. Data only, so no video for this one. And this is a USB 3 Gen 2 port, also with 10 gigabits per second. At the back, here we can see the rear cooling outlets. I was really impressed with how quiet this machine is. It features a MSC 2.0 cooling system with vapor chamber, silent fan, and also SSD heatsinks. There are 3 USB ports. This one is USB 2, another USB 2 port at the bottom. Only this top port is USB 3 with 10 gigabits per second. We have a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port with a chipset from Realtek. We have DisplayPort and HDMI. Now the HDMI is specified 4K 120Hz, but the DisplayPort, there was a discrepancy. On one slide it mentioned 144Hz 4K, on another slide it mentioned 120Hz 4K. I will ask Beelink for clarification. Have a look down below in the comments. There's also an audio port at the back. Now, if you use both at the same time, the port at the front will override the port at the back. So this is nice if you want to hook up a sound bar connected here permanently at the back, but every now and then you want to plug some headphones in the front. Here goes the power supply, and this is the USB 4 port. It can do 40 gigabits per second, compatible with Thunderbolt 3, power delivery, and DisplayPort 1.4. Altogether, these 3 ports, you can drive 3 monitors. Inside is a Wi-Fi 6 module from Intel. It's the AX200 and also Bluetooth 5.2. And now let's open the machine and take a look inside. We need to remove those rubber covers, and then we can see here there's a dust filter and speakers. Well, and the speakers are actually quite decent. Obviously not as good as decent desktop speakers or bookshelf speakers or soundbar, but it's something I appreciate and it's nice to have. Be careful when removing the dust filter. There is a small ribbon cable that connects the speaker to the motherboard. And then we can see here there are 2 M.2 slots. They are PCI Express 4.0 with 4 lanes each. The storage that the machine comes with is an NVMe SSD from Crucial, a P3 Plus with 1 terabyte. A lot of you want to do a clean installation of Windows. I swapped out the SSD just in case anything goes wrong, but everything worked just fine. So before you reinstall Windows, make a copy of the driver repository folder onto a USB drive. I created a Windows 10 11 installation media with Rufus that lets you avoid having to use a Microsoft account, and you can also have a default username and so on. Windows installed just fine. Then in Device Manager, of course, we have a lot of unknown devices, and all you have to do is point the installation to the driver repository folder on your USB. It will find all the drivers. You keep doing that for all the unknown devices, and after a reboot, here we are, all devices detected, and now you can go online, run Windows Update, download the latest AMD drivers, and you have a clean, fresh installation of Windows 11. There's another M.2 slot. Now, I'm a content creator, I'm not a gamer, so I bought a M.2 to PCI Express docking station and also one of those Dell Power Bricks. I want to use an AVerMedia capture card. So this is a PCI Express card with 4 lanes. And the card is detected just fine in Device Manager. We can see the card is flashing red. This is the standard behavior before installing any drivers. So I go online, download the AVerMedia software. Everything seems to be working fine. The bandwidth test passes, capturing at 4K 60 with XRGB shouldn't be any trouble. So it turns out the M.2 adapter gave me some issues. I would see hardware errors in HW info to do with the PCI Express connection. So I bought a different adapter. It's one labeled Beast. It's also M.2 to PCI Express, but this one uses Oculink with a more secure connection, and now everything is working. I got some standoffs to raise the bottom of the mini PC and got some Velcro straps to secure everything in place. This might not be the prettiest solution, but well, I like doing things my own way, even if others don't quite understand it. And the performance is amazing. Editing in 4K 60 is a dream, and it can even do all the encoding in software without dropping any frames. And now I want to share a few other observations that I made while using the Mini PC for a while. A couple of interesting BIOS options. Like I mentioned earlier, you can allocate the amount of graphics memory. There's also a setting for the CPU fan. You can have it run at full speed, automatic, or you can manually set the PWM speed. There are overclocking options to be found if you want to play around. If anything goes wrong and the machine doesn't turn on anymore, just use the clear CMOS button at the front. I've seen settings like the graphics curve optimizer, and you can boost the overrides for CPU and GPU clocks. I noticed that by default, the display was configured with the YCBCR pixel format. You want to change that to RGB for accurate colors. A little bit of a letdown was the microphone. I looked into the settings and it supports 16-bit resolution. That's not too bad, but the sample rate is only 16 kilohertz. Windows, accurately describes it as tape recorder quality. So I'm not quite sure why they skimped on this aspect. And now let's talk about the price. This is an expensive Mini PC. You're definitely paying an early adopter premium. You're looking at $999 USD. Now, if you're more into value, have a look at some of the other Beelink machines. I will put links down below. They might be better value, but if you want the absolute best with the fastest performance, the best graphics, then this one is worth considering. As always with these videos, there will be links provided by Beelink. I will just paste them into the video description down below in case you are interested. Also, I will be using this as my main machine, so if you want me to test anything, just let me know. It's not a problem at all. Just make it easy for me to test, for example, Geekbench or something I can quickly download and test. Absolutely not an issue at all, but if it involves a lot of manual tweaking and it's got pages and pages of instructions, then probably I don't have the time for that. So guys, my take on the Beelink SER9 is, yes, it is expensive. You are paying a premium, but you are getting outstanding performance. And I don't know how they managed to do that, but this machine is not only extremely powerful, it is also whisper quiet. I was really impressed. And now I want to hear from you. What is your take on this Mini PC? And if you have any questions, leave them down below. I will do my best to answer them. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching and all the support on the channel. And as always, I shall see you soon with another one.